this morning, someone told me the market was greener than a Shrek festival, and I couldn't agree more. So many stocks just exploded today, and the entire market just went ballistic. We saw stocks like Shopify up 22%, Palantir up 20%, Penn National Gaming up 14%, and so many other stocks run to the upside in a way that we haven't seen in a long time. I'll tell you, Tom, I was getting flashbacks to the 2020 money printer days, the way some of these stocks have been moving. But for tomorrow, we have more action on the way. Apple just reported earnings, and we have some even more great setups for tomorrow. So with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into it.
Yeah, Apple was insane, and you know what? Apple's running to the downside, Mike. Now, the numbers actually looked pretty good overall, but they kind of had a really bad headline that is not good, and it's not good to see this as a business either. So if we go through their EPS and we go through all the big numbers here, look at the revenue. It slightly beat expectations, $89.5 billion versus $89.28 billion expected. The EPS barely beat expectations. The iPhone revenue hit expectations. They're lucky on that one. It came close. Mac revenue actually came in lower. iPad revenue beat slightly. So they have all of these numbers that were reported, and for the most part, they were pretty good. But the big headline that is causing them to fall is it's their fourth consecutive quarterly sales decline. And Mike, if we actually go over to our dashboard, we can see that happening on the right side of our screen here. So pretty much Q1 of 2023 has been lower than Q1 of 2022. Same thing with Q2 of 2022. It was slightly higher in 2022 than it was here. Now this quarter, which is Q4, which is not shown yet, is going to be slightly lower than Q4 of 2022 there at that 90.1 billion mark. And if we go back to Apple's article here, we can see that this month's revenue, or this quarter's revenue, was 89.5 billion, so less than that 90 billion mark. So it's coming in less again, Mike, and that stock is taking a big hit. At first, it ran up slightly, but it didn't even survive a 1-minute candle. It came right back down.
Exactly. So, like, Apple earnings were just, like, okay, you know, in my opinion at least. It's like, yay, they beat expectations. It's like, great job, guys. But then when you actually, like, do a little bit of research, it's like, what? It's like, why are we celebrating? It's like your revenue is actually declining. And in a time where inflation is running up as much as it is, it's like, you know what? Like, I'm not really going to celebrate you actually having declining revenues for 4 quarters in a row, you know? So it's just kind of like, you know, not the best, not the worst. And of course, they're also having some, a little bit of problems in China as well. So it's just been kind of like a disappointment in my opinion so far. But of course, earnings can change on a dime. They can turn directions, change directions very quickly. I mean, Tom, look at AMD a couple days ago. They reported earnings in the after hours. The stock tanked down, and the next thing you know, the next day the stock was up 10%.
Exactly. So Apple could do that, and I wouldn't even be surprised if they did. I'm sure that, like we said, the numbers were actually pretty good overall. It just, you know, like you said, it just didn't get that really big wow factor right away. So who knows? Maybe they'll talk about something in the conference call, like maybe their headsets that they've been developing. You know, they've been developing those new headsets, so that could be pretty big. Maybe they'll talk about that coming out next quarter or over the next few months, and then that'll kind of help their revenue out. But there's a whole bunch of things that they could mention, and I'm sure that they'll kind of go over the outlook and the overall economic situation a little bit too, because as we know, the economic pressure on consumers has also been fairly high. I thought that they were going to miss iPhone revenue, but they barely came in at that expectation.
There we go. So while Apple earnings has been exciting, and while it will influence the market a ton tomorrow, one of our most talked about stocks also reported earnings today, and that is DraftKings, and so far it has been great. So DraftKings is a stock that we've talked about in a bullish way for a very long time now, and we actually have some very exciting things to talk about with this one. So the first thing I want to talk about is how DraftKings actually recently overtook FanDuel as America's most popular operators. So DraftKings and FanDuel have been like competing in such a like hard way to see who's really going to be the leader of sports betting and gambling and online wagering in America. And for a while there, FanDuel had a pretty good lead on DraftKings, especially in some states, but it looks like DraftKings marketing is really starting to pay off. And as a DraftKings shareholder, there's no news I'd rather see than this one. Besides maybe like a giantly profitable quarter, but besides that, this is news I love to see.
Me too. And Mike, we've been talking about DraftKings for a long time, right? We've been saying to average down on it, buy shares. And, we've been talking about it since this stock was, like $60, $70, right? Like during the highs of COVID, it was awesome to see it there. Now we got this big pullback coming in, and it's actually been growing well. And they said that next year is supposed to be their next full year of profitability. And that'll be their first full year of profitability as well. And with this growth, I love to see them overtake FanDuel the way that they are. And whenever I start to go and I scroll through their earnings, I saw an awesome chart here showing this growth where they start to steal that higher share of USB, OSB, and iGaming revenue, or the overall market share there. And look at how they just keep getting this nice increase quarter after quarter to the upside where they just keep stealing that market share. I have a feeling in a couple years, DraftKings will be far and above the market share for the online gaming industry. But Mike, there is one thing that could hurt DraftKings here that does, put a damper on things, is Penn Gaming. They are actually releasing ESPN or Bet ESPN here on November 17th. So I don't think DraftKings has really seen any true competition yet. I don't think I personally would never use FanDuel. I'd use DraftKings all day long, but I love the stock. Honestly, I love ESPN too, so I don't know. I feel like they're going to get a lot of competition from Penn Gaming here over the next couple months.
Yeah, we shall see. And, speaking of Penn National Gaming, ticker symbol PENN, it had a fantastic day today as well, popping by like 14%. And, many stocks had such an amazing day. And, I'll tell you, the bullish price action today was something that we just haven't seen in a very long time. Looking at the heat map today, it doesn't even fully do the price action that we saw today justice. Yeah, we could see Tesla up 6%. We could see Nvidia up 3%, but there were so many other stocks that were up, anywhere between 5 to 10% or even more. So, the bullish action today was jaw-dropping.
It really was, and I'm trying to go over here to the Russell. I figured that there'd be more in the Russell that were green, and you can see that there's quite a bit of green here in the Russell as well. I mean, the market was great today. If we bring up my watch list from Thinkorswim, which we don't usually bring this up, Mike, but I wanted to bring it up because look at all of these, I guess you could say percentages here, like Roku, 30%, Shopify, 22%, Palantir closed up 20%, what are we talking about today? That is 3 stocks over 20% on the watch list, and there's 20 of them over 10%. So what a day. It was one of the best days in a long time, and there was a lot of great opportunities throughout today, especially early on with some of those breakouts. SPY was breaking 428, ran up to 430 resistance in a pretty big way. So I'm looking at SPY for tomorrow, Mike, and man, we're getting close to some big levels here, 432, 434, and then 438 overhead are going to be very, very important here coming up tomorrow. So hopefully we can get up to these bigger resistances and keep this uptrend going. But I don't know. I have a feeling that there'll be a little bit of a pullback coming soon.
Yeah, we'll see. And we can't forget that tomorrow we also have some pretty important economic data as well. So before market open, 1 hour before market open, we have the unemployment rate and non-farm payrolls coming out. So that'll definitely move the markets. And then at 10 a.m. Eastern time, or 30 minutes after market open, we have ISM Services PMI, which can also influence the markets. But I would say the unemployment data and the non-farm payrolls before market open will be more important. And I think the biggest thing going into tomorrow is, being adaptable. It's very easy for the market to continue running higher. It's easier for the market to rise than it is for it to fall. But at the same time, we can't just get too caught up in this, what I'll call short-term bullishness. And, we also have to keep in mind that the market has been on a pretty strong downtrend over the past couple weeks and months, and we still do have some pretty strong resistance overhead. And Tom, the market has been making lower highs very consistently ever since the end of July. So it's like, I think tomorrow the big key will be adaptable, and especially if Apple has a big move, to follow that, because Apple just reported earnings, and whenever they move, they have a huge direct influence on the market.
Yeah, I agree, Mike, and I think that'll be a good way to go. And so far, Apple's been kind of down in the dumps a little bit. So I'll be watching for that, for the market to possibly fall back down slightly. And the SPY was kind of sitting just under a key trend line. I like how you brought up those lower highs, because if that SPY does post another lower high right here, I mean, like if we chart it out, it would look pretty normal, right? It would just look like a continuation of the downtrend. So I like it overall, Mike. I'm hoping that the SPY can keep this up, but I have a feeling that we'll at least chop around maybe for a couple days before going higher. So keep your eyes on the market, guys. Those economic data points on the schedule are huge. And if we go to earnings for the rest of the week, there isn't really anything left. So it was mainly everything tonight, like Coinbase, DraftKings, Starbucks, Square, Apple, though all of those. Starbucks actually reported this morning. I'm going to have to send eWhispers a dirty message. They had Starbucks reporting tonight.
Yeah, sometimes these stocks just surprise us, and report a day early, or, change last minute. So good stuff there, but let's get right into the fun stuff for today, which are some setups. One stock I'm watching very closely is PayPal yet again. So PayPal had a pretty good day today, popped up by around 6.5%. It is still very oversold in the grand scheme of things. It's bouncing great off support, and I think the risk to reward playing this one to the upside right now is pretty awesome, and I'm going to be watching this stock very closely.
Yeah, it's hot here. It had that great move today with earnings, and I hope it has a good continuation into tomorrow too. So if we could break out maybe above like 55, 60, whatever that high of day was this morning, that would be pretty sick. So I'll definitely keep PayPal on the radar as well, Mike. I love that stock down here at these prices anyways. With NVIDIA here, I'm watching this one to the upside. Now, I know that we've been watching NVIDIA down a lot, so I'm going to give a couple levels here. If we do end up breaking below intraday support at 430, I will definitely be eyeing up puts all day long on this. So if we break 430 down, I'll be eyeing up those puts. But hey, let's hope that the market keeps up and keeps this good momentum. If we break back above like 430, 650, I'll be looking at some intraday calls again. NVIDIA's starting to heat back up, and it's one of those stocks that just seems to never really get a true breakdown lately. So if the market keeps going, I'm sure that they'll follow the crowd there.
There we go. Another stock I'm watching pretty closely is Citibank, or Citigroup, I should say. This one had a great day in the markets, and bank stocks, I don't want to say move like completely independently, but they definitely move a lot differently than your average tech stock, and that's a great thing in this market. C had an amazing day today, popping by around 4.5% to the upside, and the options did phenomenal on it. I think at this level, again, it just presents a great risk-to-reward setup. It's pretty oversold, and it's starting to move with some great momentum. So again, it's a stock I'm going to be watching very closely to the upside.
I don't know how many times we've talked about C over the past couple weeks as it's bounced off this support, Mike, but I'm really glad you brought it back up again, because of what a day today. Those banks were fantastic, and I noticed today that those yields started to really go crazy, Mike. I noticed that US 10Y started popping down a ton. Like if we go to a daily chart of yields, look at how steep, these red candles are coming in on these yields here. So I think people are starting to see like, hey, over the next few months to in the middle of next year, the Feds are going to start cutting rates, maybe easing a little bit, and they're going to be looking for those rates to go down. So hopefully they're starting to price that in a little bit. And I think those banks are kind of seeing that. But my next play for tomorrow is Peloton, Mike, and it's a weird one for me because I would actually normally never play Peloton, but that move today was nice. The stock is very cheap. The options can be extremely lucrative on this one. And if we see a nice uptrend or a nice continuation off of this good move and maybe start to get to $6 or $6.20, I think this stock will be great for tomorrow, at least for options. So keep your eyes on Peloton. It's a very volatile stock that I do not recommend buying for the long term, but if you want to play some options in the short term, it could definitely pay out pretty well if you catch it right.
Good stuff. And one thing I want to reiterate is just like what we said a minute ago, Tomorrow, the key is to be adaptable, right? While we just called out a bunch of great upside setups, if the market is tanking down in a huge way tomorrow, then, you have to adapt and, play stocks in a bearish way rather than a bullish way. And we'll also talk about, some more setups to the downside in just a couple minutes, but I just wanted to reiterate that because being adaptable will be very key going into tomorrow. But with that being said, Tom, let's jump right into the momentum plays. And with the first one, we have PENN, again, to the upside.
I actually think this stock is going to be great for the next few months, with ESPN Bet and everything. If they break this double top tomorrow right around 22.80, then look at calls.
All right, with the next one, we have TLT, which is a stock we looked at yesterday, and it had an amazing day today, again, to the upside.
Gosh, we're finally seeing those yields fall, Mike. You know what? I knew you were going to bring up TLT. I was just waiting when, right? I'll be honest, Mike, with the way yields went today, I was surprised it wasn't the very first thing that we said. But with TLT, go ahead and make it break 87.30.
Tom, you knew it was coming. I talked about it yesterday as well, and TLT is... it's at a very historically low level, and I'm not necessarily not expecting like the, completely world-stopping recovery out of this one, but I think that this bounce is definitely overdue. So again, we have the upside level for TLT. And then with the last momentum play, we have Meta for both directions. And Tom, I'll tell you, Meta today disappointed like so many people, like so many stocks just popped to the upside, and Meta just, I don't know what happened today, but it was stuck in the mud.
It really was. I don't know what happened either to them, but if they end up falling under that support around 308, then look at puts to the downside. That's a pretty big area just under the low of day today. If they're able to get back above 312.50, then maybe look at some calls. But yeah, that sell-off today was pretty wild, especially with how just about everything went up today.
Yeah, so we have the downside level for Meta. If it breaks below that, we're watching it for puts. We have the upside level as well. If it breaks above that, we are watching it for calls. And then don't forget about TLT and PENN, PENN, for upside plays as well. Again, they're only plays if they break above the level Tom listed. But Tom, we also have a pretty crazy big money trade of the day today, and that is with that crazy Chinese EV stock, NIO, NIO. So basically a big money trader dumped $2.8 million into the NIO 9-strike call options that expire on June 21st of 2024. So, NIO is one of those stocks that has had a very wild ride over the past couple of years. Right now, it's lingering right around, we'll say, $7.75 a share. In 2020, it had lows, it was in like the $2 range, we'll say that. And then it had a giant explosion through 2021 and popped all the way up to like $67 a share. So this one has giant swings. It's electric. It's an electric vehicle company, and it's very volatile. Looks like a big money trader is buying the dip here, and it looks like they see a bounce coming. And, I like the play. It's definitely more risky than the average big money play, but it also has some time to it. So, I'm definitely going to watch NIO very closely. I think this is one of the better big money trades. All I'm going to say is that, it is a little bit more risky. So I think it's better than average, but, again, you have to make sure that you can handle the heat.
Yeah, and one big thing that I really like about this, Mike, is look at the support here. Like, there's a big support right around $7 to $7.50. There's been multiple bounces down here. We can circle them. There's been about 3 at this point, or 4 or 5 if you want to get really technical and just say like a bounce a couple days ago was a bounce. But we're getting that good recovery up off of here. If this continues and we get a nice recovery, I think it's awesome because you can simply just throw a stop loss like right down here, like around $7 or maybe $7.15. I don't know where you would want to throw it. Maybe $6.90 if you wanted to be a little bit wider with it, and you could maybe target like $9 or $9.50, or maybe this gap fill to 10 if you wanted to get really risky with the play. But the main thing is this is a big support, and I think that that risk reward ratio could be set up well with it, even with the options. And I think that these are some pretty nice ones as far as time goes, right? A lot of people are going to want to buy options that expire tomorrow, right? So I feel like that getting some time to this is very important. These people are probably going to hold this off this support and just let it go until support breaks, and that's what I'll do. And I'll be watching this one very carefully, Mike, because we all know NEO has big moves. Like, look at the moves it had off this support last time. The stock went up like 200+%.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. So keep a close eye on NIO going forward. Tom, today, the market was insane. The week has been insane, whether it was, all of the earnings we had, whether it was Powell, whether it was, just price action overall. I know today specifically was one of the best days for a lot of different people because so many stocks just rocketed to the upside, and I just want to say huge congratulations to all of you. And even if today was slow for you, that's all right, but just make sure to position yourself where, in the future when days like this do happen, that you have a lot to benefit. And the best thing you could do is just start a long-term portfolio, especially if you don't already have one. Days like this are it makes being in the market very fun and very rewarding.
Exactly, unless you're trading Meta, right? Unless you were trading Meta today. Then it was, I felt bad, Mike, because right whenever you said it was rewarding, I switched to Meta's chart, and I was like, oh no, that looks terrible. Let's go back to NVIDIA. But yeah, it was a great day for just about everything. And like Mike said, if you guys did well today, shout out to you. And hey, let's keep up this momentum for tomorrow. I think tomorrow could be a great ending to the week. If we keep up with this momentum and the market has like one more good day here, that'll be exactly what a lot of traders need, I think. So let's keep it up, Mike. At least DraftKings so far is looking pretty good in after hours. I will say this, though. Apple has been kind of making me rethink things for tomorrow. This is what makes me really say we got to be adaptable tomorrow, because between Apple and between the economic data that's coming out, it could change things a little bit. So let's see what happens. But for the most part, I'm going to still be bullish. And let's go, Mike. These growth stocks are awesome. And my favorite stock in the market's popping off, DraftKings. So shout out to you guys, DraftKings.
There we go. But yeah, guys, let's have an amazing day in the markets tomorrow. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe. In every single video, we analyze the market, go over top setups for tomorrow, go over earnings, important news, charts you won't find anywhere else, and big money plays. So subscribe to hear from us more often. Last but not least, we want to give a giant shout out to today's member of the day, Ross C on YouTube. Thank you so much for all your comments and activity. Tom and I really appreciate you. And besides that, guys, let's have an amazing day in the markets tomorrow.